Hey, today here in the shop, we're back on the 26 Oakland. We're gonna see if we can get some spark out of the ignition system. We're gonna see if maybe we can get the carburetor cleaned up and get it put back on. And if we have enough time, we might even turn it over and see if it'll make a little noise. We don't know because we don't know what challenges we're going to run into, so that will be the excitement of this episode. So let's just get after it. I'm Mike and this is My Car Shop.
Working out of a 100-year-old refurbished barn, bringing 35 years of experience to projects considered beyond repair. Vision, creativity, and problem solving are essential tools in this place. Watch as we transform junk into polished metal miracles. This is My Car's Shop.
So since the last episode, we really haven't done anything on this car because we try to share everything with you as we go, but we do have a brand new set of spark plugs for this. We want to test the points. We need to get the ignition system out of the dash so that we can send that off to Wayne Koffel to get rebuilt. Did I say the ignition system? I meant the ignition switch. The coil is actually located under the dash. We don't know if that works, so we're going to test that. There's just a lot of different things that are going to happen. So Dad is going to be here soon. He's running a little bit late today. I'm just going to do some prep work and try to kill this bee that's flying around here before it stings me and I end up in the hospital again. I hate that when that happens. Let's just do it. So for those who may not have seen the end of the last episode because you don't stick around to the end to see all the surprises I always share in an episode, hint, 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 I'm going to start out just by showing you what we accomplished last time. So yes, we have a completed engine. The oil system works. We have good oil pressure. The distributor's in and should be timed right. And it cranks over because we put the battery in and the starter's good. So big progress here on the 26 Oakland for sure. So the next thing we want to do is check the points one more time. I did check them a while ago, make sure they were working. And we might just go ahead and put some power to the coil and see if that goes pop, pop, pop while we're at it. I try to share as much as I can with you on a project, but there are some things that are just literally impossible to get on video. And one of those is working under the dash on this Oakland. Now, if a person is 3'6" and weighs probably 42 pounds, it wouldn't be a big deal. But when you're 6'3", weighing, well, a lot more than that, let's just not be too personal. Yeah, there was a lot of going on and just stuff, and well, anyway, the coil is out and this certainly doesn't look like a coil, but we're going to do a little testing on this coil, see if it's any good, and yeah, if it's not, then we'll come up with an alternative. So I've gone through and I've tested the coil, and I'll show you what I did to do that. I took my ohm meter and put it across and made sure there was resistance everywhere. I didn't bother to look up specs because as long as there was no open circuits between the positive, the negative, and the output, I wasn't that concerned about getting in detail. I just took it over and hooked it up on the car to make sure that it went sparky spark. So we'll show you that in a minute. I'm just cleaning up some contacts right now. Everything is rather dirty from years and years. So that was part of the issue why I couldn't get spark before, I think, was I just didn't have good contacts on everything. So we're gonna do that. And then, well, before I put this, there's a resistor on here, and I don't know why. It's probably similar to what we would do on a new car with a ballast resistor, which means that somehow the voltage must be reduced on this. Like I said, I don't know why, but it is. So I'm just going to hook this back up here. It's beet season. Sugar beet trucks are going like crazy. Anyway, we're gonna hook this back up here and see if we've got continuity between these two now, because I didn't before. And I still don't, and I don't know why. It does not make sense to me. Oh, there it goes. Again, I think things are just corroded. Let's see if we've got continuity now. Very good, we do. Let's see if we've got it down here to the post though. Yep, we do. We didn't have that before. So we should hook up here and we should have spark over on the engine. So let's go do that. So I've hooked up the negative from the battery to the coil. Remember, this is a 6-volt positive ground, so you have to think backwards. Positive goes to the chassis, negative is your power to everything. So I've hooked up the negative to the positive on the coil. Sounds weird, I know. And I've got this one is the one that goes to the points. I've got it just going to ground here, and we'll zoom you in, but if I touch it here, you can see I'm getting sparks. So what that means is the coil is getting excited, and we're making a circuit through the coil. So the next thing we want to do is hook the coil wire up to the coil, do the same contact here, and see if the spark plug wire or the coil wire sparks. So we'll hook that up. It's right here. It just slips onto a little post. I can't really you see it because it's behind the distributor. And we'll take this over here, and we're going to put it against this, and I'm going to just use this other bolt over here. Hopefully, let me find someplace else that might work. Yep, there you go. So what I'm doing with this wire here is I'm mimicking what the points do. So we know that our coil is good. We've got nice hot spark there. So the next step then is to hook this up to the distributor itself, and I'll have to wait till Dad's here for this. Make sure that the breaker points are opening and closing properly to create spark so that the coil is exciting and unexciting. So our coil is good. Yay, I was concerned about that. That's actually quite a nice hot spark. So the next trick in testing the points is to go from the terminal here to the distributor body and see if the points are making and breaking contact. I gotta find my leads. There they are. So, and this doesn't matter positive or negative, and I wished I had alligator clip ones, but I don't. So this is kind of going to be in your way a little bit. Let's see if I can figure out how to do this so that it's not in your way and still accomplish everything I need to accomplish. So there's that one. And I need this one to go to the other side of the points, and we should hear a beep. We do. Okay, so let's hold that down in there tight. And I'm going to open and close the points by hand. I don't know if you can hear that beep. So as I'm opening and closing the points, it's making and breaking contact. So the points are working. And that's really bizarre. I'm guessing we're going to have to clean those points. But they're working, so I don't want to mess with them unless we have to. It's surprising to me. I didn't touch them. I never cleaned them. I don't remember ever touching them. So they're just working because they work. So I'm going to assume that they're going to work. They may corrode up once we get some electricity to them, but I'm not going to worry about that. If they're working, it's best not to touch points unless you absolutely have to, because then in the future they will arc. We probably should order a new set of points for this at some point. No pun intended. But I'm thinking back to my 31 Ford though, and I don't think I ever put points in that either. Not that I recall, and I don't think Jim ever did while he had it. So probably these older 6-volt systems are a little bit more durable on the points than maybe some of the 12-volt, higher volt systems. Another thing I wanted to mention is I don't know if this is voltage reduction or what this little resistor's for here on this coil. It could be like a ballast resistor, but I'll explain a couple things here. On a 12-volt system, when you turn the key on, the battery feeds through a ballast resistor to reduce the voltage to the coil down to about 8 volts. When you hit crank, it bypasses that ballast resistor most of the time to give full 12 or full battery voltage to the ignition to help starting. And then when it comes back to the run, it reduces that voltage back down to that 8-volt range. That's just easier on the ignition system. So it just keeps things from running too hot and so forth. But on this, this has a little resistor, so maybe this is, I don't know. I don't know why it has that little resistor on there. I don't know this system well enough, but I'm guessing it's doing a little reduction in voltage, maybe. I don't know, something. So, and that could just, actually that coil could just be on there to work like a condenser, now that I think about it. That a condenser basically holds a little bit of charge and also helps the points from burning too much by dissipating extra voltage. So it could be that that is a old style form of condenser. It's just a coiled wire underneath here, and I'm not sure. I'm not taking time to research it. I will at some point because I'm curious, but for now, that's what it is. So we should have spark to all of these if we put the cap and the wires on. So I'm going to go get the new spark plugs and get those threaded in. Dad called a little bit ago. He's on his way, so he should be here within the half an hour. And we'll turn this over and see if we have a little spark at the spark plugs. Right now, we're just going to set the ignition part aside until Dad gets here, and I'm going to work on getting the carburetor cleaned up a little bit. Don't know what I did with my screwdriver. Just want to put some fuel in here and see what happens. My hope and my goal is to not have to tear this apart. I think that's probably a little bit optimistic, but it should be a brass float. It should be a brass needle and seat. And as long as the jets aren't plugged up too bad, we might be okay. I'm hoping that they drained the gas out of it when they parked it. But remember, this is back in the day when gas was actually pretty decent, so we might be all right. I know I've had some of this apart before, but let's see what we can do. I think we only need to clean this part of it up. And I do know that the butterfly on the throttle is really sticky, so we need to get that loosened up as well. The accelerator pump, if that's what that is, or mixture change, or whatever that unit is there, is also stuck really bad. I'm pretty sure I've had this off of here already once, this little sight bowl. Could be wrong. I don't know. It is what it is. I just feel like I did take it off and clean it. Yeah, I did. I can tell because it's loose. I don't know what the odds are of being able to get a carb overhaul kit for this, so I'm going to do what I can and hope that we don't need to. Looks like I took out too many screws because all I got to do is twist it, but that's okay. So yeah, we got some slime and gum in here and gunk, and the screen there is a little dirty. But I think just we can bring it around by just blowing some carb spray in there and just getting the passages to clean up. Again, the goal here is to get this fired up without spending huge amounts of time rebuilding everything, only to find out we have major issues down the road with something else. So we're not cutting any corners by any means. But by the same token, we're not going hog wild making everything perfect, because that's something that you sort out over the next several years as you're working on stuff. So we're just going to kind of just give the magic juice to it here. Try to get things, loosened up. Oh, that is gummy, gummy, gummy. Wow. Don't really want to have to replace the carburetor. That would not be a good thing. Good news is this is coming loose now, so that's good. The throttle is just terribly gummy, terribly sticky. Makes me wonder if this, I might just need to do a little work on this here. I'll be right back. And this, my friends, is the challenge of working on cars that are 95 years old. I was working on getting the throttle shaft cleaned up and loosened up and dug into it more and found that the whole area here on the barrel of the carburetor was cracked really bad. Those cracks went all the way through into the bore of the carburetor, and of course my thought was, well, we'll have to get another carburetor. There's no options on that, but maybe we can get it working well enough that we can at least try to fire this thing up in the next little soon time. And what happened was it literally crumbled in my hands. All of it fell apart. And yeah, you can see all of these little cracks. This whole barrel of this carburetor is just disintegrated from age. So I called Wayne Koffel. He has a carburetor. He just needs me to send this one to him so that he can, well, that's interesting. Also, the butterfly screw, I bet you. Yep, the butterfly screw is broken off also. It's a good thing. It's fortuitous that this did not run. This could have sucked up into the engine, although probably not because it's an updraft carburetor. But Wayne says he has a carburetor, so hopefully we're in good shape with that. Unfortunately, that does mean a delay on getting the fuel system fired up on this thing and seeing if we can make the engine make noise. But that's just the way it goes with these projects. You can't be in a hurry. So I'll give you a closer little look here at all of the cracks. It's just all shot. The whole thing is just gone all the way down, all the way over into that bore over there. It's no wonder that the throttle blade wouldn't turn. And of course I was working it back and forth, trying to get things loosed, and just loosened up enough so that I had seen the cracks. But hoping that maybe we could use it, I would just put a little silicone over this to keep it from leaking vacuum for a temporary fire it up, and just fell apart in my hand. So there you go. 95-year-old stuff. That's what happens. So we've got the negative side of the coil hooked up to the points now. I've got the positive side disconnected because the points are closed. But we're going to take our coil wire. And Dad's here now, so we can crank it over. And I'll have him crank it over, and we should see a spark down here. So you want to go crank it over? Don't just jump in the car and hit the button.
Oh, okay.
You can do it that way if you want, but
I took crank literally.
don't be so cranky.
That's last week.
Yeah. Go ahead. Yep. There you go. Stop. Okay, let me get the camera in so everybody can see it. Okay, you should have some nice spark here. Go ahead, Dad. We have spark. So if we put a cap on, get our plugs in, and get the wires hooked up, we should have spark to every cylinder. So we will do that next, make sure that our cap and rotor is good, and check a random plug or two and see if we have spark. So you want to stick the plugs in, and I'll get the cap and rotor on. Thing we're going to do then is see if we have spark to a plug. See if I can get shocked. Go ahead. Yep, we have spark to the plug. Don't know if we have it to all of them, but we definitely do to that one. Go ahead. Yep. Oh, let's check the timing. See if we're close. Hold on a second. Okay, go ahead. Hold on, my hand's touching it. Okay, go ahead. Sparks exactly. I don't know if you could see that on the camera. Let me move my thumb. Hopefully you could see that. Every time it puffs my thumb off, you can see it snap right there. And I'm getting sparked from number 2 also, so that hurts. All right, so the next fun little project is we've got to get under the dashboard and get the ignition switch removed so that we can send it to Wayne to get rebuilt. And that's not going to be any fun, so yeah. There's nothing to film again unless Dad wants to run a camera and listen to me cockadoodle-doo a lot. So we'll probably spare you that, I think. Okay. Well, it's also the one that holds the speedometer in. one. I have no idea. Oh, that's how she comes out, just like that. Wasn't what I was expecting. That's okay. So I think if we get some wires loose and be able to move that around a little bit more and pull it down, there's one wire I think that's keeping it from coming down more. And then we can figure out how to label those wires so that we can get it all back together again. Yay! I don't see any markings on there though. But I can't, my eyes are so bad and I'm so far away. Maybe you're closer, maybe you can see something. I believe that's a piece of glass used for mixing Bondo.
Yeah, there is some writing in there. I can't see it either from here. But... okay.
Well, we have the beauty of if we document it, we know where the fuse is, and we can just number them clockwise around, saying, you know, the fuse is number 1, this one's number 2, this is number 3, this is number 4.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yep. And I can get a little closer
Okay.
also than I am right now. But
Okay. Would the seat being in there make it better or worse? So Dad's carefully inspecting the switch to determine how we want to label the wires so we know where they go back. So I got out the book just to confirm, and the firing order is 153624. Yep, 153624. So I started at number 1 plug wire and just went around and chased them, and I did have them all correct. So our firing order is right. So when we're at a point that we have a carburetor and can stop this thing down a little bit, every spark plug should be puffing, or not puffing, but snapping at the time of the puff, and we should be good to go. So yeah, it's just too bad that carburetor is just not what we want, but it is what it is. So a couple weeks, unfortunately, we'll have to wait to get that in the mail, and then hopefully we can get it on here and see if we can make some noise.
is actually battery.
Okay.
So we got to change these two.
Okay, so Dad's been labeling the wires, and we just took a minute and checked to make sure whether the labeling was correct. And yeah, we need to relabel them because we determined for sure which is the battery feed to the ignition switch now. And that gave us a clue as to how that switch is labeled, because there is labels back here on this switch to tell us what each thing is. So you can see it says battery and tail, and that's the label for the screw, where we were thinking it might have been the label for the terminal, like that copper terminal. That's where it says battery. It's not. That's for that screw right there that says battery. So he's redoing the labels on the wires so that we have it correct, and he's also drawing a schematic. So we have that, and so he's just right back to kindergarten playing with tape and markers.
Yeah, but I left my crayons home, darn it.
So Dad's just finishing up his sketch on the ignition switch, and we were just verifying that we had the wire schematic correct that we came up with. And so we backfed a couple wires back to what we had labeled them, and they're right. Dad, why don't you push that button and show them what else we did? We got a horn working. Not quite a Model A horn, but still sounds pretty cool. So, yep, very good. All right, so the diagram is drawn. And the switch is out. You can see all the little labels there where each screw goes and what it's for. Note, interesting that the fuses are missing, so even if the switch worked, it wouldn't have worked. Also, the ignition switch, which is the center one here, the wire went over and was cut off. So there were obviously issues with this switch a long time, and they must have been hot wiring it to start it. So who knows how long it's been since the switch worked, but you can tell it was an issue because on this side of it, the handle is broken off, and I'll show you what that looks like from the manual in a minute. And it doesn't turn, so I was able to turn it with some pliers, but it does not turn like it should. So we're going to send that off to Wayne. He's going to rebuild it for us, and he's got a new handle to put on there, and it should work like new, and we'll get it back in the car, and then everything should work as planned. So from the manual, you can kind of see what that switch looks like, sort of, kind of. The numbers aren't there because that's just refers to this chart right here, which tells you what each position of the switch is supposed to do. And if you want to study that, pause the video here and take your time. Well, the carburetor situation is definitely going to set us back for a couple of weeks, and I have toyed with just squirting a little gas up in there in the cylinders and cranking it over and hearing it fire a little bit, but I think we'll just wait. There's no throttle blade on there right now, and if I could bolt that old carburetor on so that the throttle blade would restrict the air a little bit, I wouldn't hesitate to do that. Would it hurt anything? Probably not. It wouldn't at all. I could restrict it with my hand, but I don't know. I just feel like I would rather, all we would be able to do right now is just make a little noise, and that's not really going to tell us anything. I have no doubt that the motor is going to run at this point, but we need to be able to run it long enough to be able to tell whether or not we have any knocks or what it sounds like. We don't know. So it is extremely disappointing. Wayne's on the road right now. He's heading to Florida to pick up a car, so he'll be a few days before he's home. But by the time we get this carburetor in the mail off to him and get it back, we should be good to go. So unfortunate. It's tempting to jump in the car and just drive to Pennsylvania and pick up a carburetor, but that would be a bit foolish and quite expensive, so we won't do that either. So anyway, Dad's got the time today, so we're going to go ahead and get the rear wheels done. We cannot get the wooden wheels off the back. They're stuck on the axle. My buddy Creed is working on a tool to try to put on there to pull it off. We determined that it is a 2 3/4 inch 16 pitch thread, so he's got a tap that size at his shop, and he can make us a plate to put on to thread in there, and we can make a tool to try to hopefully pull that axle out of there. I think with some steady pressure and a little bit of creative tapping, we might have some success getting it out of there. So we'll see. But anyway, we're going to get on getting these tires off the rims and getting the rims cleaned up and painted. And, well, there's just going to be more work. So hang on. We're going to get it done. Also, I'm not going to get as in detail on this because there is an episode on the channel about how to use this rim shrinker, tire stretcher, I don't know, whatever that tool is called, and how to do this whole process. So we're going to share it with you because we share everything with you, but not nearly as in detail. If you want that episode, go look through the playlist on the 26 Oakland, and you'll find one on how to change the wheels on these split rims on the Oakland. All right, so our wheels are cleaned up, brushed up in primer. The insides are rust conditioned.
Dad's bugging out, heading home. Gotta do some vehicle rearranging here yet and get that yellow car up in the front of the shop and leave the red one at the back so we can finish the paint work on that. We got materials drying right now from yesterday, so by tomorrow they should be ready to go.
So the next step then is to get the wheels painted, which I will probably do tomorrow while I'm working on the orange Pinto over here. And get the wheels, get the tires put on the wheels and get the wheels on the Oakland and get it down on all four. Was just thinking through the logistics of, we have nice weather right now, but it's obviously not going to stay this way. And just thinking through the logistics of what needs to happen, what needs to be where. Got to do some measuring, but I think the Oakland is going to be coming out of that hole and going straight up and behind where you are right now. And we'll put the Forsyth Duster in that spot for the winter. So probably going to have to do a little rearranging to make everything fit, but I think that's going to make the most sense. So stitches will stay where it is, but it will be on the rotisserie. That's coming, I promise. The Oakland will be straight behind you in the front of the shop. The Duster will be where the Oakland is, and the 47 will be here. We're going to keep Scoops in the tent over there where it is right now, and the 74 Swinger will be back in the back room for the winter as it usually is. And I'm probably going to keep this truck right here so that I can pull it into the shop right where you are to work on that this winter off and on. Still hoping maybe to get that truck on the road this year. But there's just a lot going on, and there's just not enough days in an hour to get everything done. The carburetor was definitely a surprise. We had not cleaned that up to see that the barrel on that carburetor was in such bad shape. We should have been starting this car today. That was kind of the plan. So is it an epic fail? No, but Dad has got the ignition switch, and he's also got what's left of the carburetor to send off to Wayne so that he can match up. There's a couple different ones that could fit this engine, and he's going to keep the old one because it's junk anyway. And he's going to send us a carburetor that's going to work on here. So that'll be good. We've got to go through the fuel system. We just got a lot of stuff, but hopefully once Wayne get back from Florida, we'll be able to well, by the time you see this, Wayne will be back from Florida for sure, because my production schedule is a couple weeks out right now. So this video won't be out for a week or two at least. But anyway, so by the time you see this, hopefully I'll have the carburetor and we'll be filming this thing running. But the fuel system's not ready. That's separate. We can run it without the fuel system. We got to drop the tank. So the car's got to move out. And so there's just a lot of logistics that have to happen. I really appreciate you hanging out with us today. We got a lot done. This car is going to be on its feet soon and getting into its new position very soon. But we've got to get that little green Vega done first. So, all right. If you haven't subbed to the channel, please do that. Hit the bell so you receive those notifications. We're on other social media platforms /mykarspage. I appreciate you being here, and as always, you have to remember, it's very important.
Wow!